well, 5 years ago, we really started down this road to get the funding, which we did 2 years ago. This past year, we had a pilot year. So we worked with one county, Wilbarger County, which Vernon, Texas is their county seat. We had 4 folks actually, 2 from the DA's office, a police officer from Vernon PD, and then an advocate that was kind of new to the advocacy world, but she was very, very engaged and continues to be very engaged with us. We started at the conference last year and have had a full year of curriculum. We've learned a ton from them, probably as much as they learned from us. They were a little further down the road in developing a coordinated community response in their community, and that was really one reason why we chose them. We wanted to, I hate to use the word guinea pig, but we really used them as a measuring stick on our curriculum. We made a lot of tweaks, so it's been really great. So this year we kicked off our first full cohort. We have 6 different counties, primarily it's sort of central East Texas, not far from here, like maybe 2 hours would be the most, 2.5. Tyler-ish, Waco-ish, kind of that area. We have a total of 19 people, and what we've learned with our advocacy agencies that are here, what we've learned is that we knew going in, these small rural areas don't have a true advocate. We have a lot of system advocates, so we have a victim assistance coordinator, mainly from the DA, or from the DA's office in most of our counties. We only have one county that has a true advocacy agency in it. So we've had to go to Waco to borrow their advocate from there, and another from Brazos County in College Station, Ryan College Station. So similar circumstances, they cover multiple counties, so we have brought them in to sort of sit on the outskirts of our cohorts. They're team members, but sort of ancillary members, and very needed members, because we know those advocates are a huge part of it. So a little history there, how we're different. So as you can see from this great graphic that we have, we start and end at the Conference on Crimes Against Women. Within that year, between the conferences, we will offer all kinds of cool stuff. The backbone of our conference, of our institute, we have an e-learning platform, a really robust, cool e-learning platform. We've spent 2 years developing this. We will have webinars on that. We have an amazing resource library. We call it ICCR Link, and Brooke will go into that when she goes through curriculum. It's really robust and cool. We have community training, so we will come out to these counties 3 to 4 times each year, bringing the speakers that you're seeing this week here at the conference. So they're national level speakers, speakers that these counties would not be able to have, to afford, to even think about bringing in. We're bringing them to their counties, and not only inviting the fellows that are involved in the institute, but the entire community. We know that it takes a community buy-in for this, so that's the thinking behind that. We start with the best practice assessment. Praxis, which is headquartered up north in Minnesota, they have developed over the past several decades the best practice assessment. So we'll go, you will examine case files and determine the holes in your community, and then we develop training based on that. And again, Brooke will go into more detail on that for the curriculum. And site visits and mentors. So the mentors are a really important part. One of the goals of this is we want to create a network within your community. So not only your team members, which will be an amazing, hopefully there is a relationship already between those team members. We will further develop that team, as well as bring in other folks in your community that have a direct impact on the safety of women in your community for domestic violence. We know from the CDC and from all of the federal agencies that a coordinated community response is the #1 way to deal with domestic violence specifically, and that's really our goal. We want to develop a really strong CCR program in those communities to tackle domestic violence. As Jan said, we know rural communities are super unique, and again, this is how we really differentiate ourselves. We know there's isolation issues. We know that there's a lack of being able to keep your personal information private. Those small communities, everybody knows what everybody else is doing, right? We know that there are a lot of very conservative and traditional gender roles that are still going on in those communities. And we know there's a big, huge lack of resources. And we tackle those. We really address those, and we stay flexible and ready to help you address those and be flexible. And again, our ultimate goal, we want to make your community safer. We want to develop a strong CCR and give you all the tools to be able to do that. In partnership with us doing this, it's not just me and Brooke. We have a huge team of folks that will come out and help. Moody Foundation and Cruz Foundation are amazing funders for this. They have provided money for the next 4 years, so we will have, again, this year's our first year. We'll have 2 more full years of 6 counties each, so it'll be a total of 19 counties total. TCFB comes in and helps us provide a lot of the hands-on resources. And what we're hoping to do is build that bridge. We know that they're a great resource here in Texas, and once we step away, we want these counties to have strong ties and know what TCFB has the ability to come in and help with. I mentioned Praxis, UTMB, and IDVSA. They, as I mentioned, we have 4 years of funding, 3 cohorts, so we have an additional year that is pretty cool and again sets us apart from all of this. We have these 2 amazing research arms that throughout all of these years will be conducting evaluation on this. What we will do after we step away from this in 4 years is be able to have research-based best practices to be able to prove that this really does work. We're making a difference in the community. So our research partners, once we, again, step back after a year and that cohort is done, they will continue to follow up with those counties to see what kind of progress they made from their baseline. So we're really proud of that and excited to see what becomes of that. And then Advanced Net Labs is our partner that has developed the e-learning platform, which again is a huge part of this. Really fast, y'all know you were out here in this community, but we have 254 counties in Texas. We were joking earlier, I grew up in the Midwest and no one really understood, I'm from Texas, and no one really understood, you can stay 10 hours, you can have an easy 10-hour drive in Texas and still stay in Texas. And it's very evident in West Texas, as we were saying. So of these 254 counties, 70% are eligible for this, considered rural. And of those 70%, let me get my numbers up where it goes. So of the 70%, we know that only 45% of our rural counties, or 45% of our rural counties have intermittent access, and we know 19 counties have 0 access to any domestic violence resources whatsoever. TCFB does a great statewide plan report if you're ever interested in those facts, and they update it annually or semi-annually. It's really, really interesting. And again, just Pecos County, you have amazing geographic isolation, and there's no resources. They have to travel hours and hours to get any type of domestic violence resources. And and my benefits. Benefits! So, not only are you creating an amazing systematic change in your community, educating your folks in your community, and creating the CCR, selfishly, if you're interested, we will have TCO, for the law enforcement, NCLE for our prosecutors, NCU credits for our advocates if they happen to be licensed. Again, as Jay mentioned, free CCA. You get CCA on the front end and the back end.
You also get to start calling it CCA, which is really fun.
And as I said, we have on-site training, so we will be bringing Mark Wynn, Justin Boardman, all these awesome presenters that you're seeing this week. We will bring them to your community, and a lot of times you get to choose a topic for what we will be speaking on and what that community will gain from those speakers. Our resource library, we update, this is on our e-learning platform, we continually update it. It is a live resource library. So if you want to know more about strangulation, we're gonna have Kelsey McKay's presentation that she had here recorded with her PowerPoint presentation, and you'll be able to access that. Among many literally thousands of documents and videos and everything cataloged, easily searchable. When you're done, the really cool part, so you have your year-long of the actual learning in the Institute. When you're done, you will still have access to this e-learning library, along with chat boards to continue your network, and cool resource. And then, of course, consultation with statewide and national experts, including TCFB and Praxis, and our speakers that we put you in contact with. So really amazing resources.
All right, awesome. So I just want to go over the curriculum a little bit, but first I want to kind of expound on the structure of ICCR. So as Becky said, we have 6 teams at a time. Currently we are working in, actually let me go back to this map and show you who these people are. This is where you are right now. This is Hill, Henderson, and Limestone County. You can see that they're kind of geographically clustered so that we can provide them training and networking resources. And then we've also got Leon, Grimes, and Burleson down in the Brazos Valley. We are intentionally geographically clustering our teams so that we can make sure that our training has the most impact and that y'all have those networking resources as you continue to move past your year in ICCR. One more thing. So within, again, these 6 teams make up one full training cohort. Each team is based in a county, and it is made up of a prosecutor, a law enforcement officer, and an advocate. Now, advocate would ideally be a domestic violence nonprofit advocate, a community advocate, but because we know that those resources are very rarely available in rural Texas, we also have a lot of system advocates in our current cohort right now. So primarily we have victim advocacy coordinators in the prosecutor's office. If that's the case in your county and you still want to apply, what we will do if we accept your application is make sure that you're connected with your closest community domestic violence advocate. Even if they are an hour and a half away, they still are willing to be bought in and on board to make sure that they're providing either remote services and resources over the phone, or many of them actually have built into their grants rural outreach. That's what we're seeing a lot in this current cohort, and the rural communities just aren't aware that those resources are available to them, and they don't necessarily know that they could be asking for them. So even if you don't have that domestic violence services agency in your community, that is why we are here. We're here to help you bridge those gaps and to also think of creative solutions whenever you can't get the victim that you're working with to a shelter. So like Becky said, throughout the year, we have a really robust curriculum of what these teams and these individual fellows are going through. We begin and end at CACAW, the Council on Crimes Against Women. We have 5 units throughout the year that are all structured around building your CCRs and interagency leadership primarily. So we're not just teaching you about the dynamics of domestic violence, but how to reach true collaboration and go from just cooperating to coordinating to collaborating, which we'll learn more about that in ICCR. So our five units are building the foundation of your CCR. That's where you will start the best practice assessment, ensuring survivor-centric services, overcoming common roadblocks, solidifying your direction, and overcoming burnout and vicarious trauma, because I think we all know how much of an issue that is, especially when you're already under-resourced. And then you wrap up the full year at the conference as well. So the components of our curriculum, to describe a little bit more about the best practice assessment, as Becky mentioned, this is a national model developed by Praxis International, who does a lot of advocacy work, particularly in rural communities across the United States. This is a systemic case-wide review that you and your team conduct based on their really easy and user-friendly checklist. You pick a piece of your system, so it could be 911 response or investigation response, prosecution, and they also are rolling out some post-adjudication systemic reviews such as probation and parole. You pick some cases that have already been adjudicated and go through them to see what is working in your community and where your gaps are, because as we know, the reason that we exist is because we know that you are all unique in your rural areas and you all have different issues and different strengths. And you will work on that kind of in the background of your online curriculum for the first 6 months of the Institute, with time built in so that it's not overwhelming or anything like that. And then at that point, you'll consult with Praxis, you'll consult with the Texas Council on Family Violence, consult with us, and make sure and determine a direction for your CCR to go. So you might decide that you just want a domestic violence task force, or perhaps you want to implement the lethality assessment program, or a BIP, battering, intervention, and prevention program, or a fatality review team. And we have the resources to train your communities to do that. So the second half of our curriculum, once you finish the best practice assessment, is focused on you actually creating and beginning that CCR, and through the rest of our online trainings, you will have the skills and the tools to sustain that even after your year with us. We have, I think Becky's mentioned most of this. We have our monthly webinars. Those are live webinars with the entire cohort of 18 to 20 fellows, based in a time that again is the best for the entire cohort and individual fellows. Everything's recorded in case you have a murder trial that week, as one of our counties does this week, so you can always catch up as needed. We have really cool e-courses that we've developed specifically for ICCR. These are recorded sessions from the conference, hour-and-a-half sessions, that we have broken down into really 30 minutes or less of an interactive course with the best sound bites and video clips and fun interaction and quizzes and things like that, so that you're getting super dense, really great, rich information that you can always go back and view the larger video if you feel like that would be beneficial to you. So for example, Lundy Bancroft, I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with him, he's one of the leading national experts on working with abusers, which I know is a very hot topic right now. We're developing an e-course on his accountability for offenders video. So instead of sitting through an hour-and-a-half class, you now have a 30-minute soundbite and interaction on best practices when working with offenders and truly holding them accountable. We also have guided discussion through our e-learning platform, ICCR Link. I mean, I think if you've been in high school, college, it's very similar to that, but it is not only focused on the curriculum and talking about what you're learning, but also gives you the opportunity to connect with other fellow fellows who are maybe not as close to you. So on our e-learning platform, we have this really cool chat board called Connect. And so that's the space where you can talk to fellows, you can talk to mentors, you can share ideas and frustrations and get feedback from people who are on the ground with you. And then our resource library, again, just to reiterate, we're super proud of this resource library. As you know, most resource libraries have a lot of academic articles and things like that. We've got that, but we also have webinars and links to the leading experts in the nation on various topics that intersect with domestic violence. Anything that might touch domestic violence, that might intersect with domestic violence, you're going to find a resource on our library regarding that. And like Becky said, it's not only for your year in ICCR, it's also once you are a graduate and alumni of the program. And then just to highlight the time commitment, that's usually a question that we get. This all sounds like a lot, but keep in mind that this is an entire year. You can expect to spend an average of about an hour a week on ICCR, but that ranges from like reviewing our monthly newsletter for the week to an hour-and-a-half webinar. It is super manageable. A lot of it is self-guided between you and your team, so you can make it work around your schedules. This is an example, a nice screenshot of our e-learning platform, ICCR Link. So you can see, I can see what I have past due, what I do soon, and the other things that are assigned that we wanted to tag for y'all. Every week in this featured category, we will have selected specific resources from our library that are related to either the curriculum that week or to hot topics such as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, for example, will have resources related to sexual assault. So anytime you log in, you're seeing stuff that's relevant to you. And then you can also see where it says explore grant opportunities. So as we mentioned, part of our goal here is to help y'all CCRs be sustainable, to really empower you to be able to take this to a wider community and to continue on. Even once you leave your position, we'll be training you on how to do that so that your community can reap the benefits of this from years to come. Obviously, one of the ways to do that is money. So we'll be training you on how to write grants, how to report on grants, and always providing you this living document of federal, state, and private grant opportunities that might be a good fit for your community so that you can be kept abreast of that throughout the entire year. Oh, and I mentioned Connect as well, so you would access all of that on here. You get notifications when other people post. It's super cool. We're really proud of ICCR. All right, so any questions about the structure of ICCR, the curriculum in particular? Yes?
Could you explain the cohorts again?
Yeah, sure.
It's probably like super basic, but
no, if you're not in the e-learning world, it's not. Okay, so these are teams. Each county makes up a team, and 6 teams make up an entire cohort. So it's basically like your graduating class, like your class of students. Within the teams, the individuals that are in each team, we call them fellows. So it's fellows feed into teams, feed into cohorts.
okay, and you only serve one cohort a year?
Yes, so one cohort of 6 teams per year. So it is like 18 to 20 fellows each year. So right now we're clustered here because this is where our interest was. We are marketing to the entire state of Texas for those 117 rural counties who are eligible. So I would say if you are interested in applying, the earlier the better, because where we have the highest level of interest, we will try to group there that year. And it could be more spread out than what we've got here. You know, we could have one geographic cluster down south and one over kind of in West Texas.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, great. So again, if you're interested in applying, please apply early. This is our website link with our application. Again, you're applying early so that we know that there's high interest in our location in Texas. If you don't feel like this is a fit for your county, but you know it would be a fit for the county over, please apply. If you are an advocacy agency that's serving 4 different counties, let them know that this is available. And again, to go over eligibility, it is any county that is 50,000 people or less and or under-resourced according to TCFD's state plan. Again, because of our private funding, we're really lucky to be able to be flexible. So if you are under-resourced but you have 60,000 people, or you feel like you should have been designated as under-resourced, let us know. And if you aren't a fit for ICCR, we can definitely point you in the direction of some other help as well. And then, of course, our next training cohort kicks off at the 15th annual Conference on Crimes Against Women. All right, any other questions? Anything anybody wants to ask? Great. Well, y'all, this is our,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was looking just really skinny at the application.
Yes.
And when it asks like the county that you're in.
Yes.
So we're headquartered in Guadalupe County, which I don't think is considered rural,
Right.
but my other 3 are. So on the county, would I put in the county that I'm specifically wanting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so there is a county that you're in and there is a county served. So you as the advocate would put in Guadalupe County and then all the counties served. And in the 3 brief questions that we asked, you would describe those relationships. And thank you, I actually wanted to remind y'all to apply as a team. So again, prosecutor, advocate, law enforcement. But we are there to help you if you are kind of confused about who would qualify as an advocate in your county, or if you think you're going to have trouble getting your law enforcement on board, and law enforcement can be either sheriff or police department. Please start your application so that we can reach out to you and talk to you about what your options are.
Well, and since you do serve those 3 counties, just to clarify what Brooke was saying too, go with a county where you can partner with that law enforcement officer and advocate. Prosecutor, sorry.
And keep in mind too, that whatever county we choose, all of these counties surrounding the current cohort, they are all able to come to our on-site trainings for free. I really wanted to highlight that again too. Those on-site trainings are such an invaluable resource for not only bringing people like Mark Wynn to your community for free, but also for networking and for getting people bought into what you're doing. So if you're having trouble getting your law enforcement or your prosecution office on board, that's a great way to raise some awareness and to make sure that people kind of know what's brewing.
Well, and practically too, we know that that person may reside in one county and the crime's committed in another county, and there's lots of crossing over of all that.
Exactly. Yes.
For the on-site trainings, can you give an example of one that you had with your kickoff year and who in the community would have attended that maybe isn't a part of the actual law enforcement or prosecution?
Sure. So we did have a lot of law enforcement and prosecution specific training as well. We did trauma-informed response that was geared towards law enforcement and prosecutors, but people from the local college attended because they also are seeing this and want to know the resources to direct people to. One of the really cool things we did was for Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month in February. Right? Yes. We brought the teen version of In Her Shoes, which is here at the conference. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend. We brought that out there, and they actually brought in their high school and middle school AVID students to go through those scenarios and to talk about the way that they view dating violence in their friend groups and in their families, possibly. And then our presenter, our assistant clinical director from Genesis Women's Shelter and Support, also did a identifying teen dating violence and preventing teen dating violence for parents and teachers within that community. So again, like that was very community-based, had nothing to do with law enforcement or prosecution, but it certainly makes your lives easier to have a community that's informed and knows
well, and
resources.
that particular training really highlighted sort of an unlikely partner in that community too, which was the Boys and Girls Club. So they were kind of wrapped into this and realized they had a seat at that table too. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and so I know that there's a lot of like drug issues, for example, in many rural counties with meth and opioids. So we can bring drug training to your community, the intersection of substance abuse and domestic violence, intersection of domestic violence and sexual assault, whatever is most relevant to y'all.
The on-site trainings, are those typically like a full day, or how long?
It varies. Yeah, so we typically always try to have it within an hour drive from our participating teams. And so considering that 3 hours would probably be the shortest, up to a full day based on what it is y'all are needing, what the interest level is.
And in the counties that you're currently working with, do you have any challenges with actually like law enforcement being able to get to the training? I know like one issue that we run into is, you know, we want to host these trainings, but we're talking about really small departments that may not have a lot of officers on at a time. And so, like for example, you know, in one of my other counties, I'm like, we will pay for your officers to go to this conference. Like, who wants to go? And they're like, well, we can't because we're gonna do, you know.
And no one's there. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, do y'all? I mean, I know these are just kind of one day.
Right.
But do you run into any of those challenges with them?
Yes, and so we can absolutely work with the law enforcement agencies that show the most interest, and of course the law enforcement agencies that are actually part of the teams. We can have our speakers do one training for each shift. We can host it at the police department. We, again, are super flexible. We'll record these trainings and we can provide that. We also will open up several of our webinars that are relevant to the wider community and not just to our fellows, so they can listen in on that. So, yes. Yeah.
Any suggestions on how to get your prosecutors on board?
Yeah, sure. So,
Because like we tried.
yes.
We tried super hard. One of the advocates before me, you and I talked, we tried super hard. I came on in September, we got law enforcement, they were totally on board. We ended up getting new DAs.
That was
they were
a big
just,
issue this year.
yeah,
Yes.
they were way overwhelmed. And she doesn't really express much interest. So,
Yeah.
how do you convince them? How do you?
So we actually have one of our, the prosecutor in our pilot cohort, Staley Heatley, who has presented here before and is kind of a leader in the prosecution field in Texas. We can absolutely have him give your prosecutor a call and talk about it from a really relatable perspective, that's a really good way to utilize our current cohort's mentors. We are happy to connect your chief of police with Mark Wynn to talk to him, or your prosecutor to talk to Stanley Keatley and get someone that's on their level that they respect to start hearing that.
And kind of a long-term view too is what we're trying to take as scholarshiping them to come to a conference.
Yes, actually, so teams,
Yeah.
the teams that participate in ICCR, we can offer scholarships to the heads of those agencies to come to the conference as well. Any other questions?
So, like, my county is not on the eligible county list, but we're really kind of a big county, and we have a lot of little bitty tiny police departments within our county.
Right.
That, basically, again, Camp Horniston,
Yeah.
that's their main issue. I tried
Right.
this year, I mean,
Right.
we tried hard to get some of them to come with us. But, so, just go ahead and apply and see how.
Yeah, well,
how
let's-
that
and
works.
let's
I mean, there's
talk. I
5
mean-
of us with a huge county.
Right.
That's all we got, but we are a 24-hour service though,
Mhm.
too. We
Right.
work 24 hours.
Right. Well, we can definitely talk and see if it's a good fit. We have a lot of scholarships to come to the conference even outside of ICCR. TCFB has some programs that are specifically more for larger agencies, so we can chat offline and see what direction is best.
I know, it's very rural, but yet.
Yeah, you're in that kind of
We've got
hard in
a
between
lot of
spot.
domestic violence
Yes.
issues.
Right.
How many people work for your organization?
So within ICCR, it's me, Becky, and Megan, who was in here. So there's 3 of us that work specifically on ICCR, and there's 5 of us on the conference staff.
Okay, thanks, yeah. But we have lots of, as you heard, we bring in people for all of our training. We don't actually do any of the training really, so we have lots of partners.
Okay. And that's, I mean, we're unique in that we have such an awesome base of speakers and consultants to pull from the conference as well. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you all very much. Let me put our contact information up here again. We have a booth here. You can stop by there and grab some more info, ask us any questions you want, and thank you for being here.